call to order our Finance Committee and confirmation of the minutes of our last one, which was June 26, 2024. I'll ask Member Carlucci and Member Faisal to move. All in favor? We have a presentation. Jeff, tariffs.
Good morning to the committee. One moment, please. I'm stuck.
They had some issues with the other presentation. It was bouncing through, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair, for the delay. So in today's meeting, we're going to provide an overview of our thinking around tariffs. We will talk about Canada's reciprocal tariff response, which has two lists we'll refer to as Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 1 impact is between $370,000 to $650,000 to the board. Phase 2 is in consultation right now, and we see that impact of up to $2.2 million in 2025. We'll talk about diversifying the supply base. We'll talk about Buy Canada. And finally, Bank of Canada forecast. This provides the bank's forecast of 1.8% GDP growth here in 2025, but as a caveat around tariff impacts, which we'll run you through. And finally, we'll talk about timelines around the 2026 budget direction, as well as discussion at the March 6th Committee of the Whole meeting of York Region. So I think that the board is well aware of the timelines related to tariffs. I'll draw your attention to March 4th and March 13th, which represents the Canadian reciprocal tariff announcements. There are two lists, over 1,800 tariff items, and after our review, there's about 94 that relate to police spending. On the April 2nd list, this is the end of a consultation period. This includes vehicles and vehicle parts. It has a much significant higher increase to the board, and that has over 4,400 tariff items, of which just over 60 relate to police spending. I'm sure that I don't need to remind the board about the tariff concerns here, but I'll show your attention to what's on the list today. The March 4th and 13th list includes firearms, which we do import today, ammunition and taser, conductive energy weapons, all imported today. The challenges that we face is around training and health and safety. So replacing these certain critical components is not an easy thing. We have to retrain our officers, and we have to consider health and safety protocols. For police exemptions, we were contacted about a week and a half ago from the CACP to advise on their advocacy, seeking exemptions for police supplies. And again, it's the critical supplies of firearms, ammunition, and conductive energy devices. So that was issued about last Friday. CACP wrote an advocacy note. We've also connected with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and this is through the York Region's Procurement Office. We've jointly made submissions around spending, so all of the numbers that you're seeing here today have already been sent to AMO for their lobby purposes. The risks that we see are both financial as well as around the useful life. So the financial is easier to explain, but the useful life is different. So I just wanted to highlight to the board that because we're delivering public safety, we do have some limitations to how long we can extend the useful life of our supplies and goods. So we do need a fairly quick refresh cycle. It's not like we can just defer a lot of our lists. This slide is to show, we're talking about goods here when it comes to tariffs. And on the operating side of things, this is $12 million out of $484 million. So we're about 2.5% of our spending on the operating side is goods. On the capital side, the goods list is about 20.8 million. That's the bar in gold. And that's 65% of our capital spending is goods. So that totals up to $32.8 million. What I can advise the board is that last year in 2024, we spent about $3.3 million with US addressed businesses. So $3.3 million out of everything that you're seeing here. So again, we're well on our way to buy Canadian, buying locally. That's already happening. It's already in our supply base today. So Canada has added reciprocal tariffs. Phase one is on the left. This is the long list. Again, I've mentioned ammunition, firearms, conductive energy devices, or conductive energy weapons, we call it. But there's a long list of items here. We do buy windshields. That's on the list. It's tariff today. We do buy tires. We buy remote piloted aircraft in the United States. Our first tariffed item is around motorcycles. And the conversation just recently was we do buy a product from the United States. It's a very loud motorcycle that has a brand name to it that you're probably familiar with. And replacing that takes some time because you would have to build a parallel training process if you were to go with, I'll say, Honda or BMW or the two other police motorcycles commonly in the market. So we've chosen that would be an increase to a contract in order to continue to buy. It was 5 Electra glides. On the and again, the total of this list, we see an impact, and we're showing a range of $370,000 to $650,000 impacted here in 2025 if the tariff list stays static to what they are today. Phase two is the consultation. That April 2nd coincides with when the United States has announced tariff increase with many of its formerly allied countries. But that's the end of the consultation period to the government of Canada. Again, vehicle parts would impact us by about $2.2 million. It was up to $2.2 million. Again, this represents an opportunity, and I don't want to understate this slide. I'll take some time to go through it with you. We see that there's 5 corrective actions that we can take today. One is fostering Canadian, Asian, and European suppliers. I will call this the tariff-free countries. So that can be done locally, but it also can be done by facilitating logistics. One example is from a clothing supplier who uses a bonded warehouse. So what they do is they buy, they create the garments in another country, they ship it to the Los Angeles where it comes in as a consolidated shipment, goes to a bonded warehouse, it gets to be reshipped back out to Canada. And again, it does not cross a border. That's not an origin from the United States product. So there are logistical supply chain answers to some of these tariff issues that we're seeing today. And that example will go across hundreds, if not thousands of vendors. And that's how our economy will have a lesser impact on tariffs than might otherwise assumed. Compliance with the Canadian-European Trade Agreement. Again, this is an important trade agreement. It's one that is up today as opposed to not. And we're working with York Region Legal. We've already had a tariff addendum added to. So if we issue a procurement today, there's already an addendum on that. And we feel strongly that the existing process is going to sort out this tariff issue. So if we issue a tender or proposal today, we are seeking the best value to the board and a tender the lowest price. Those bidders will have to take into accountability from where those goods are sourced from and price it accordingly. I think our existing process will sort this tariff issue out and will help us buy from tariff-free countries. We also have existing scope and contingencies. So scope is it's in the bylaw today. Its scope is 20%, contingencies is 15%. We're allowed to stack those. So if in the motorcycle example where we are proceeding with an importation, we do have flexibility already into the bylaw. So we're not seeking any extra authority today, but the whole point is to evaluate the contracts as they are, if they need to be amended so that we can bring that list forward. A, we can track it, but B, do it in live time so that we're giving the board updates frequently around what the tariff impact actually is, if it's material. Number 3 is explore diversification within the product. And I'm talking about the brand names. We often buy Kleenex. I'll use that generically, of course. But we should be looking more broadly beyond brand names because they're often American into, again, sourced from the non-tariffed countries. Developing strategic partnerships. This is about 75% of our goods are bought locally, just over 75% of our goods. And I'm expanding goods to say, okay, there's also supplies. And we have limitations on supplies because a lot of this is technology. We have over $10 million of technology that's bought from Canadian arms of US companies. Think of an office productivity suite. Think of cloud computing. They're all US companies. And again, we have to be thinking beyond that, and we can always do a little bit better around how we strategically partner and encourage, frankly, the Canadian industry. Again, the technology lab was brought up this morning. And number 5 is increasing flexibility and adaptability. And again, this is something that's never really been accomplished in policing, and it's something that we're adapt to do, which is to look at our supplier base and to make those changes as quickly as we can. Some of that includes we might have to be looking at buffer stock as we move forward. I also wanted to give the committee an update on the Bank of Canada forecast. And again, 1.8% increase is their January outlook for gross domestic product, but they've issued a number of warnings around the tariff war. One is a gradual increase of prices over time. This inflation is going to impact the CPI. It's going to impact with higher import costs from the United States, and they're forecasting a currency depreciation. Again, those impact our costs here locally. They talk about a substitution effect as consumers and businesses opt for non-tariff goods. I call them the tariff-free countries. And finally, they talked about this tariff costs. They're going to be passed through to the consumer over 3 years. And we've seen alternate research. I could show you bank economics forecast, but they say something similar. Oxford Economics is one that we follow. They're a partner of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. They've also said that this inflation will come in slower than you might expect, but at 6 to 7% per year. And finally, the implications of this is that the bank is calling that there'd be a long-term reduction in Canadian productivity, a permanent dip in gross domestic product. So the point here is that if there is a recession, that it would not be the preferable V-shape that we received over the COVID, that there would be something more enduring than that. That's the bank's call. So I wanted to mention all of this because we're entering into budget conversations, and this does have an impact. So from a timelines perspective, between now and June, you'll be seeing an update on operating and capital forecasts, and any scenarios will be brought to you by the June period. This helps inform work with the CAO and the treasurer. Those meetings happen over the summer internally. We're back out to the board in September, and I'll reach out to Office of the Budget to confirm that our date is agreeable. You might remember last year we did a special meeting about halfway through the month. That might be needed again to so that the Office of the Budget has the correct timelines. That gets into the normal fall process, and similar to last year, they're looking to land the council's approval of the budget by the end of November. But I wanted to do a caveat. So there was a committee of the whole meeting on March the 6th that many of you attended, and a recommendation number 3 was added. It's listed here around a recession contingency budget. So we heard perspectives from Mayor Pellegrini, we heard perspectives from Mayor Taylor, and Mayor Lovett actually came up with this language to say maybe staff should come back to us to help us come up with scenarios around recession contingency. I did hear keep the lights on. I did hear stimulate the economy. So I did want to just mention that if there's feedback that could help us in our staffing developments or our staffing options, that would be useful to us. And before I turn it back, I wanted to just comment, this is not an AI generated activity. I do want to thank the hard work and dedication of the Finance Planning and Administration Bureau. And this is led by Acting Supervisor Carl Kuhn. I want to thank the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. We hosted the Budget, Finance, and Asset Management Committee yesterday, where most of the police services view on tariffs aligned with what you saw here today. I'd like to thank Scott Agnello of Waterloo. He's the Purchasing Cooperative Co-op lead, who also agrees with much of what we're saying here today. I'd like to thank the York Region Procurement Office. There's been quite a bit of work with Fadi Samara, the director, as well as manager Agnes Sot-Semian. And I'd like to thank finally the YRP Procurement Bureau led by Juliette Martner. With that, any questions that you might have, sir?
Thank you very much, Jeff. I have a couple quick comments before I open it up. So you just talked about, some police motorcycles that I think you said 5 or 6. Have we gone out for procurement on them now?
Last fall, it was a
Okay.
2024 tender.
So would that not be
It would be, but the importation of that product is right now, and the tariffs are on as of March the 4th, I believe, or the 13th, one of those 2 dates. So they will be impacted. We bought them through a local dealer. I think it's Barry Harley Davidson.
Okay. No, I was just like, I saw your first ones about stockpiling or getting a partnership, like things like that. And I'll be pushing for a contingency reserve, because this is going to go on up and down, up and down, up and down at the whim, and we can't operate that way. The other thing is, I mentioned it earlier, we're in the process of bargaining, and that you are very well aware of will have an impact on our budget this year.
Yes, sir.
So, Member Taylor.
Thanks very much. Great presentation. Really good detail. Obviously, a lot of work went into it. I guess there's so many little things you could talk about, but I think to talk about it sort of at the level, what the principles that are involved here. I think that, to start with, the one thing we'll be caught in, just like COVID, which is that we're going to have increasing costs, but the public are going to be more sensitive to as well, because they're going to have increasing costs. So we're going to have to wrestle with that through the budget here, through the budget at the region. I think that's one place, though, where we can look to reserves, et cetera, or because, even though it'll go up and down, I think I hope this, will take a year or so, and then maybe it'll continue to be impactful after that in some ways, but we'll at least be on some sort of hopefully more solid, not solid, more solid ground. But taking that aside, I just want to be really careful that here, just as much as at the regional table, we're still doing everything we possibly can to avoid buying things that are American. Because principle number 1, and principle number 2, which is one that's more easily missed, but that I get why you're doing it. Your job is to manage the budget, but if we go out looking for ways or avenues to avoid tariffs, remember, the public is being asked and already told there's going to be financial costs and pain for you here, but stick with us. We're a team. We're going to go through it all together. I mean, in some ways, we've just got to find the resources and pay the costs associated with it, whether it's motorcycles or, I hate to say it, and I know you're lobbying already, but maybe even firearms. I mean, I know they're really important. I wouldn't say don't buy them American, because if that's what we have to be safe, then we do it. But if we have to pay a premium, and the public's paying a premium in the grocery store, I don't know why they should suffer the impacts on their lives on a daily basis, and we seek exemptions. I mean, that's a bit of my thinking on it. I'm not asking you to change with the police associations and how you lobby, but as a general principle of how we think about things, I think people are already being told and are soon going to very much experience that there's financial pain involved in this, but we've got to stay firm. We've got to fight back. We've got to have our own tariffs. Then if government can't afford to absorb that impact, the public probably can't. So just a couple of thoughts I think are worth giving some thought to.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jeff. It was actually I actually enjoyed it. Usually this tariff stuff, my eyes roll in the back of my head, or numbers. Women are good at spending money, not organizing it. I do appreciate Member Taylor's comments, but I think when it comes to officer safety, that we can't compromise. If we have to buy a gun out of the US, we buy the same damn gun, because it's all about retraining. But you added something to it at the end. I'm sorry. Oh, we have to pay. I'm sorry. Okay, good. So we're on the same. Sorry, but you said at the end. Okay, no. I know you didn't. I know you didn't say that. I know you didn't say that. But I thought there was a little twist. Anyways, and that's good. I'm glad we're on the same page. That's wonderful. But is there a way that we can look at items that are procured that would be subject to tariffs, that we could divide them into 2 categories, being things that I'll call frontline supplies, or whatever the right word is, to opposed to, like the Kleenex example. I mean, whether it's an American Kleenex, a Canadian Kleenex, a Japanese Kleenex, who cares? But when it comes to motorcycles, even vehicles, I mean, I think we have to stick, I mean, they're trained on those cars to do certain things with skids and things that are, I will say, frontline things. For example, if the chief needs new epaulets, well, maybe we can go to a supplier somewhere in Canada, but things that really affect whether it's a training or an officer safety, I think maybe we should look at dividing that, because then it looks like we're making best efforts to saying, this is the stuff that we're going to have to pay the tariffs on, but this is the stuff we can't. And I think that would show the public or to members of regional council that we've done our due diligence with respect to breaking it out. So those are just my, whether if that's possible or not, Jeff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair. Absolutely possible. And yes, that's exactly our thinking, Member Jackson. The example I'll give you is vehicles. From a training, on the front line, we utilize Ford Police Interceptors, have for some time. And I don't think that that's going to change. There's a standard for police pursuit vehicles, and only the North American providers actually meet those standards. So I think frontline becomes unchanged. And to your points, both aligned, is that we would just be paying more. But that's only about a third of our fleet. 2/3 of our fleet is the non-frontline fleet, exactly what you've explained. And what we would end up doing is, if there's tariffs on those products that are tariffed or become uncompetitive, and we would be shifting to non-tariff countries, so European, Japanese brands, I'll say Japanese brands, just to be very clear with you. And that's the switch that all of the governments will be taking. There'll be a lineup at those dealerships. There'll be a scarcity of those cars. So we're trying to plan ahead, because we do want to stay on top of this, but that's the shift that we're expecting if auto parts and vehicles go onto the list, whether it's in April or elsewhere.
Well, just following up on the point today, we had an item on the agenda with respect to a new engine for the airplane coming out of the US. I mean, the same sort of thing, like you have to go there, and you got to pay for it and you have to pay. So, I mean, I think that as long as we all know that and the public knows that, I think we're good. So that's great. Thank you.
We can also lobby our politicians to not put tariffs on our side. Anyway, that's a bigger discussion that we're going to get into. But one of the things, and I'm just going to add, so ammo, I don't know if it's 9mm or whatever that we buy from the US. They do make ammo up here, just not that ammo. If you guys collectively came together and said, hey, how about you retool, because you'll be able to get all the police forces in the GTA buying ammo from you, we might be able to stimulate some, Canadian company to invest in retooling.
Thank you. And ammunition came up at our OACP meeting yesterday. The OPP is our lead on that cooperative bid. We do buy a US brand today, and that's exactly the thinking. I think, Chair, rather than speak to a specific action, there are many Canadian ammunition dealers. There are many UK, French, German ammunition providers. I'll just name some. Sig Sauer out of the UK is one of the leaders in the space. They also sell firearms. But again, training, health and safety considerations first, followed by procurement actions. I did want to just also add to my vehicle comment to Member Jackson is the chief has already directed around this, that we've had this initial conversations about non-tariff countries, and the chief has agreed to make that shift as soon as practicable.
Excellent.
I'll do a quick. The one thing I want to say though is, and I think this is the challenge to the entire country, is your slide on the changes of our supply chain and all the different steps we can take. That's the most important thing. The worry and the concern is that people let that go if there seems to be a solution in a few months or 6 months. If Canada doesn't stick with that, and we don't stick with that, and no private sector business would have 80% of their receipts with one client, right? So that's the critical part of the whole discussion.
No.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Jeff, this was an amazing presentation. And I just wanted to add, is there anything available from the government as rebates? Because they have discussed about this openly, the politicians. So is that something available?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Government of Canada has yet to announce relief to municipalities, including provinces. So we're well aware that they did that. Sorry, just to back up to pandemic years, there was a fairly significant support for provincial and municipalities from federal level. That sort of stimulus has been talked about, but not yet announced. I have no details to share with you, Mr. Fizel.
Excellent. Any further questions, comments? Member Cartelucci, Member Basil, you'll move in second. Receipt. All in favor? That carries. And that's it. Thank you very much, Jeff. Well done.